Hello, everybody. Pro Wrestling Logic, Scott Golden here with the Impact review for the 6th of May 2021. We open or the pre-show, which again, a TV show having a pre-show is just goofy. Jake Something defeats Maraldo Shear with Rahet Raju. The show opens up with a recap of Scott D'Amore planning to crown new number one contender for Kenny Omega with a 12 men wrestling in qualifiers in order to advance into a six-way match at Under Siege, which is just goofy. Why don't we just have one-on-one matches? Why don't we just have, the best versus the best? That would make sense if we were treating this like a sport. Anyway, surprise attack from Omega and Good Brothers in last week's main event put Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards is re-shown. Chris Sabin with James Storm defeated Rhino with Violent by Design in a six-way qualifier. Certainly Clash of Styles match. Rhino has control early, takes over, and takes Diener about 60 to 90 seconds to interfere, grabs the foot of Sabin, allows Rhino to take control of the match. Rhino works over Sabin for a little bit. Sabin recovers, takes him down with a dive. Violent by Design interferes a second time, allowing Rhino to poke Sabin in the eye for some return to control. Sabin gets the Magistral Cradle win. Not a bad match, not a good match, nothing worth seeing here. Sabin advances to Under Siege to take on Sami Callihan, Chris Bay, Matt Cardona, and the winner of Storm versus Moose, and Miguel versus Rahet Raju. Backstage, Brian Myers interviews by GM Miller. He argued that he's already won the right to challenge for the title by beating Matt Cardona at Rebellion, but still is getting forced to wrestle him anyway. Rosemary appears, reads some tarot cards. Myers disrespects her and is greeted by Black Taurus and the rest of Decay. Backstage, Omega and the Good Brothers talk about beating up Eddie Edwards and Finn Juice last week. Don Callis tells them they need to focus on, and they can't keep losing, referring to the Good Brothers losing to Finn Juice at Rebellion. Omega tells Anderson and Gallows that he's going to coach them how to win. Taylor Wilde defeats Susan with Kimber Lee. Match is mostly Wilde in control, which makes sense since she's just returning. Susan manages to take down Wilde for a minute or two. Wilde recovers halfway through the match. Dashwood and Caleb Connolly come down. They save Wilde from Kimberly, who's trying to attack Wilde. Wilde gets a win with a German bridge pin after Dashwood hits a neckbreaker on Susan. I don't know. For this to be how you bring a talent back doesn't make sense to my brain, but whatever. Post-match, Dashwood tries to take some photos with Wilde, but Wilde isn't having it. Walks away. Miller interviews Deanna Purrazzo about not being out there with Susan Lee, which she defends herself, saying she's champion and had no reason to be out there. As a second, Purrazzo is then interrupted by both Decay and Havoc, both eyeing the championship, claiming Purrazzo had no challengers. Purrazzo said that Havoc and Rosemary should wrestle each other, and the winner gets the right to take her on and talk that out with Scott D'Amore. We get a vignette with W. Morrissey talking about how people didn't really know who he was, who's behind the face, and most people recognize because of a catchphrase. He says everyone in the industry betrayed him, and so he rebuilt himself and will bring pain to everyone at the same. And he says this will feel good. Decent promo. I hope it goes somewhere. I hope he's back on track. In all seriousness, being a trauma recovery counselor, I admire any talent, male or female, who overcomes their addictions. Trey Miguel defeats Rahet Raju with Shira in an Under Siege number one contenders match. Match starts with a bunch of flippies. Miguel until Raju cut him off with a hard elbow. Raju works over his arm and then distracts the referee to allow Shira to get some cheats in on Miguel. Couple of flurries of offense, manages to make a comeback with a double foot stomp. Both men exchange strikes, couple of near falls. Rahet Raju comes close to a submission win. With a crossface, Miguel blocks this and jumping knee. Locked in an hourglass submission, taps out Rahet Raju. Miguel joins Callahan, Sabin, Bay, and Cardona number one contenders match at Under Siege. Just makes me realize how weak their talent roster is in comparison to what it used to be. And also, I can't imagine any of these guys really. They can have a good match with Kenny Omega as best as can be, but at the same time, is it going to be something that's going to really draw people in? I don't see it. After the match, Jake Something comes out and attacks Shur and Rahet Raju. Last week, Raju cost him the chance to qualify for the Under Siege match, and he wants payback. Swingers Palace, Cardona, Bay, Sabin, Miguel, and Storm argue about who's going to win the Under Siege six-way. Go after Kenny Omega. Bay tries to add dissension between Sabin and Storm prior to the Storm's match with Moose, which results in Storm telling Sabin to stay in the back for the match. Moose said he would prove that to Bay that he didn't need a backup. Sorry about the beeps, but my internet keeps going in and out. Anyway, Doc Gallows with Kenny Omega and Carl Anderson defeats Juice Robinson with David Finlay. Match starts with Robinson going nuts on Gallows, manages to hit the cannonball, go for some dusty punches. Gallows cheap shots him and sends him to the floor with a boot. Gallows works over Robinson's head and a bunch of cheating, punches, biting, kicking, choking, and all the points in between. Robinson gets himself a little bit of time, dodges Gallows' attacks and manages to get him down, goes after the leg. Robinson goes for pulp friction, but after distraction, Omega and Anderson, Gallows is able to block him and take out the Sky High for the pin. Match was fine, but certainly a little underneath and not great. After the match, Omega and Good Brothers attack Finjuice until Edwards comes out, makes a save. Robinson down numbers games too much for Edwards. Miller tries to reach Peraza and ask her about plans to defend the title. She says she has no answers, interrupted by D'Amore, who said he liked the idea of Peraza defending against the winner of Rosemary and Havoc, and makes that match official. El Phantasmo defeats VSK. This is both of their debut on Impact. And then VSK has a little bit of offense, and even a pin attempt quickly becomes Phantasmo's squash match. Making fun of VSK and showing off VSK having a second hope spot with a big near fall. EOP recovers, hits the super kick for the win. I don't know. I mean, VSK's been a squash guy on AEW programming. Maybe this will benefit some of the squash guys to get some exposure on Impact, but it also speaks to how weak Impact is from that perspective. Rachel Ellering with Jordana Grace defeats Kiera Hogan with Touch Steals. Hogan starts the match in control, catches Ellering early, and dominates her using a bit more speed than average. Hogan manages a couple near falls. Ellering uses strength to counter Hogan and make a comeback. Striking Hogan, Ellering is not fully recovered. Hogan makes it back on offense, but Hogan tries to gain some momentum. Ellering catches this with desperation, black hole slam, and gets the win. Not a bad match, way too short. Don't even know why you put it out there. Callis approaches Moose and tries to get him to put him over and get him away from going after Omega. Moose tells him to shut up and leaves for the ring. Says he has a message to send. Backstage, Hogan and Steels are talking about when Grace and Ellering walk up to them and antagonize them for no reason. Fire and Flame just talk trash to Grace. Grace challenges Steels to a match next week. Kind of flat. Brown and Striker rundown matches for next week. Rosemary, Havoc, and number one contenders match, which could be decent. An X Division scramble match with the winner facing Josh Alexander for the title and Carl Anderson versus David Finlay. Anderson and Finlay make sense. I hate these scramble multi-person matches. Then we go to the main event, Moose defeating James Storms in the Under Siege 6-person qualifier. Back and forth, both guys get a little bit of an advantage early. They go on. Storm gains momentum. Finally, Moose hits an assisted enziguri, drops him over the rope and goes for the knee. Hits a couple knees to the ribs. Storm is easy prey for Moose. He continues working over the knee. Several strikes and submissions attempted. Storm manages to make a short comeback and hits a Codebreaker and a Tornado DDT. And I gotta grab my phone, so we'll be back in 2 minutes. With the challenge becomes, I don't know that there's a need for a company like Impact after this long. In other words, yes, they are a good company in some ways, but at the end of the day, even these main events and the throw together of these programs, are they really necessary? And that's a really interesting thing. So Moose and James Storm used to be good, 10 plus years ago, is average and above average now. Moose is, to me, a wasted talent. They could have made him a brand ambassador and someone to build around. They never really did it to the level they could have. Storm does manage to make a comeback. He hits a Codebreaker and a Tornado DDT. That doesn't obviously keep Moose down. Goes for the Eye of the Storm. His knee gives out on him, but couldn't make a pin. And then Moose recovers, hits the lights out for the win. So we have a completely discombobulated, let's let everybody all be friends and fight because we like multi-person matches. Sabin, Miguel, Bay, Cordona, Callahan, Moose, number one contender 6-way match at Under Siege on May 15th. Winner will challenge Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship at a future date. Moose Pillmanizes Storm's knee. Sabin runs out, make the save. I don't know. Wrestling booking at this point is so, everybody included mentality, and I despise it. If you want stars, if you want to make money, if you want to pull ratings in a 500 channel universe, you have to stick to 8, 10, 12 people. Really push the heck out of them. They're people that you believe in. You maybe double that to 25 if you include women, and then leave it alone and let it percolate for 6 to 12 months. And no company is doing that now, and it's frustrating. Anyway, we will be back with more WCW Saturday Night review stuff. We've got over 1,200 of these. Also, if you're looking for life, business, relationship coaching, please reach out on my main channel at Golden Opportunities Coaching. Till next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment, everybody.